We begin with breaking news from the United States. A passenger plane has crashed into the Potomac River near Washington, D.C. after colliding with a U.S. military helicopter. Officials say 67 people were on board the two aircraft at the time of the incident. Rescuers are searching for survivors in the river where water temperatures are near freezing. The plane was coming into land at Reagan National Airport when the crash occurred. Takeoffs and landings at the airport have been suspended. DW reporter Stefan Simons is in Washington, D.C. Stefan, give us the latest. What are you hearing?
The White House right behind me, the President of the United States, is informed and keeps monitoring the situation there. From the Situation Room, apparently, he had telephone calls with the newly interim Secretary of Transportation. There is a press conference going on as we speak right now, sharing a few details, and it's not good. As you said, there is no official report on casualties, no confirmed number, but there's also no reported number on any rescues, and that's a problem. Why? It is very dark. It is in the middle of the night here, of course, a local time here in the U.S., in Washington, D.C. It is bitterly cold, as you said. It's 2 degrees Celsius or 35 degrees Fahrenheit. It is windy on this river, and as experts tell us, hypothermia is kicking in, let's say 2 to 3.5 minutes in waters like this with that temperature. So it is looking grim by all measures. This is expected to be a major tragedy, maybe one of the worst in decades for this region here, aircraft tragedy. What happened at 8:53 local time? Apparently the first call came in. 10 minutes later, the first rescue teams were at the river. A Black Hawk helicopter from a nearby Army base for Belvoir was on a training flight, as you said, and collided with a landing passenger jet.
Right.
60 people on board, 4 crew, and so far nobody found.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Stefan. We're going to cut over to that press conference that you referred to just a moment ago. Let's go straight to that press conference that's taking place right now.
All those lives are so valuable, and it is such a tragedy that we lost them. You know, I think often in times like this, I try to find a scripture that, you know, is apropos, and this is from the book of Psalms. It says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Certainly we're crushed in spirit tonight. We mourn with the families who lost loved ones, and we truly are joining them in prayer and wrapping our arms around them in love and compassion. Thanks for everybody for coming out tonight, and thank you for your thoughts and your prayers.
So certainly I speak for the people of Washington, 700,000 of us who are extremely sorry for the families who are experiencing loss tonight. And so we want you to know that we will continue to work with American Airlines to share information as frequently as possible and make sure that we're getting accurate information out to the public. But my sorrow for all of the people and crew on the plane and our military personnel on the helicopter is very deep. I do want to turn to Jack Potter, who is the CEO of our Airports Authority, responsible for Reagan National Airport and Dulles International Airport, to talk to you about how the airport responded and what's going to happen next.
Good evening. As was said, I'm Jack Potter, the President and CEO of the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority. Thank you all for being here tonight and under these very, very grim circumstances. First of all, I want to let you know that we're providing support to all the families who are involved. American Airlines has established a phone number for them to reach out. That's been published, but let me repeat it. It's 1-800-679-8215. So families of folks that were on the plane are asked to contact them. We did have folks who were at the airport to pick up loved ones, and so American has set up a center in their in their lounge at the north end of the airport, and we've directed the families there, and there are folks there counselors there to work with the families. We did have aircraft that were in the air. They were diverted to Dulles Airport, some 19 aircraft. We had personnel, United and others had personnel. We want to thank WMATA for extending their hours on the Metro to make sure that those folks were accommodated. Right now, as was said earlier by the chief, we're in a rescue mode. We will continue in that rescue mode. I want to thank all of the mutual aid responders, all the counties, the districts, folks from Maryland and Virginia. Everybody's on site doing the best they can, and numerous boats out in the water right now. NTSB is on site. I want to thank all of the folks behind me, the secretary, the mayor, the two senators for all of their support, and we're going to continue to work through the night. I do want to make an announcement. People are, concerned about what's going to happen in the morning. Reagan National Airport will be closed until 11 o'clock. That's when the first flights will take off. But we're going to continue to do our best and work through this situation over the course of the night, and we hope to have more news as it develops. But for right now, it's a very difficult situation out there with the cold. It's very dark, but there are numerous boats out there. There are dive teams out there. So, again, we'll continue to work this situation, and I'll turn it back to the mayor. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that update. And you've heard that in the National Capital Region, the District of course is Washington, D.C. is at the center, but we are a close region. We have heard from the governors of Maryland and Virginia, the mayor of the city of Baltimore, all who have sent us personnel to help in the rescue operations. Last thing I'll note is just to our local viewership, and just please let our first responders do their work. Try to let our vehicles get to scenes and through scenes. We don't want anybody else to get hurt because of moving vehicles, okay? So we will be able to take a few questions. There's not a lot that we can say. We won't be able to say anything about an investigation. As you know, once Fire and EMS completes the rescue operation, then the investigation goes over to the National Transportation Safety Board. And I'm sure the Safety Board, NTSB, will provide information about when they will be briefing about an investigation. So we'll take a few. Yes?
Can you confirm that both aircraft are in the water, and perhaps Chief Donnelly can explain what's involved in conducting an operation like this in these conditions?
Yes, both aircraft.
If you're just joining us, we were looking at a live press conference taking place in Washington, D.C. following a crash at Ronald Reagan Airport involving a passenger plane with 64 people on board and a U.S. military aircraft with 3 military personnel. We heard from the president of the D.C. Airport Authority saying that they are in rescue mode in Washington, D.C. Stefan Simons, our reporter in D.C., is with us now. Stefan, tell us more about the search and rescue operations underway.
Well, it's all hands on deck for search and rescuers. But again, we're hearing from sources that it's more of a search operation now than a rescue operation. Why? Because temperature in the water is 2 degrees Celsius, 35 degrees Fahrenheit. There is a strong wind on the river. It's pitch black. That means divers, and they have gear on which is supposed to protect them from hypothermia. They can only be in the water water for a limited of time. They can hardly see anything down there, so that's very dangerous for them too. So it is fairly grim. At least that's what sources signal to a lot of journalists and observers here in Washington, D.C. at the moment regarding what's going on there. However, all hands on deck, and that means D.C. metropolitan assets, of course, then 2 counties next to D.C. Also involved, lots of EMTs, law enforcement, divers, anything they can actually possibly throw at this situation, they throw on. But as you have heard, it's a really difficult situation and looks like really a big tragedy here for Washington, D.C.
We did hear from the president of the D.C. Airport Authority during that press conference, Stefan, saying that it's very cold and dark there right now, as you mentioned, but that boats are on the water. Tell us more about the situation where this accident occurred, or where this incident occurred. The plane went into the Potomac River there. That's in one of the busiest air corridors in the United States, but aircraft that are operating in the United States are generally equipped with devices that are supposed to help them avoid collisions. Any idea how this could have happened, Stefan?
Well, the truth is no. I have no idea, and a lot of people probably have no idea, or maybe an inkling on how this happened. But you know, this is still the stage where it's about the families who are now at the airport. They need help. They need, they need somebody to take care of them. They are in a desperate situation. Then there is the rescue operation or search operation still ongoing. There will be an investigation, and this investigation will be extensive. You can bet on it. The National Transportation Safety Board will be involved. The military will be involved. The newly confirmed Secretary of Defense has already started an investigation. Why? Because, of course, the military helicopter, the Black Hawk, the Sikorsky UH-60, which was involved in this crash, mandates now that the military is also investigating. They will not trump the NTSB investigators, but they have to work together. This can take months and maybe even years. However, you're absolutely right. Washington, D.C. is a very special case. The Ronald Reagan Airport is a fairly small airport. However, it's one of the busiest in the country, actually. And what makes D.C. special and unique is that there is over D.C. is basically a no-fly zone, except for military assets for the Black Hawk helicopters. And there is tons of Black Hawk helicopters starting and launching and landing in D.C. Everywhere all the time. Why? Because the Pentagon, the CIA, and other institutions as well as departments are close by, and VIPs, secretaries of these institutions or departments have to go to the White House and back and forth. So I can tell you, I drive along the Potomac every day almost, and it was, of course, frozen in the last few days. Now still really, really cold there. And you can have, if you cross the bridges from Virginia into D.C. or vice versa, you have those Black Hawks flying over you. You can feel almost, you can touch the wheels of those helicopters. So they are low flying. Now, the problem is that there must be and is coordination. And maybe that is what went wrong there, coordination. Why? Because there is also, and this is what experts say, there's where the rub is. The military is communicating on a different band, for radio band, and on a different channel, if you will, than the commercial airliners. So they really can't talk to each other. It has to go through the tower, through the air traffic control. And again, what the NTSB investigators will find out, their first priority is, of course, now the black boxes, voice recorder and data recorder, which have to be retrieved after this rescue and search operation is over.
Stefan, talk to us a bit about the people who were on that passenger plane that was coming into the airport in Washington, D.C. We know that there were apparently 60 passengers on board and 4 crew. Give us an idea of where that plane was coming from and who might have been on board and what's being done for the families and loved ones of those who were presumably heading to the airport to meet the arrival of that plane.
Right, so this was American Airlines flight 5342, 60, as you said, 60 passengers on board, 4 crew. This is an American Airlines flight. It's a legacy airline, of course, here in the United States. However, they contract those city hopper planes out to other airlines, to other operators. And this was one of those operators. Saying that means not that it was a small plane. It's still a passenger aircraft, a jet airliner, but not a big Boeing or Airbus plane you may imagine. It is a smaller plane. It's a city hopper one. Where does it come from? Wichita, Kansas. And we have no information yet of who specifically was on there, but of course the families, they arrive now at DCA, at Ronald Reagan Airport. And of course there is a contact and help center established. And those families need to be taken care of. They have questions. They are in absolute turmoil, of course, because they want to know what happened to their relatives, to their people on this plane. And they don't get any answers. So there's a lot of psychological help for those families and friends of those on this airplane provided now. And that is foremost a priority, of course, for authorities here, for the airport, for the mayor of DC, to take care of the families and friends of those who may have been lost in the ice cold and pitch black Potomac River in this accident and tragedy.
Stefan, thank you very much for now. That was our reporter in Washington, D.C., Stefan Simons.